not okay. This needs to stop now.
Hey, come back here.
I thought it was E2.
What was that?
I don't know.
Bilbo knocked the white bowl off the...
Oh, shit, I forgot how to look back at you if you try to run out. No. Fuck. It tricked me.
You know, games kind of do that sometimes. I got a new horror story idea. It's set in a cabin in the woods.
Revolutionary.
I know, right? Yeah. It's going to have all this crazy stuff, you know? It's going to have psychopathic rednecks out in the middle of the woods.
Never been done before.
Yeah, it's going to have a chainsaw-wielding madman who wears people's faces.
How unique.
And it's going to have a tree that you.
I think that's been done one time.
I am going to have to censor that last one because, YouTube does not like that word. So,
remember how you're just saying you got to wait for a strike to fall off and you got to walk on eggshells?
I know.
Because Pepper's Farm remembers.
He didn't say he was good at walking on eggshells.
Oh, well, that's okay. Fair.
No, we're terrible. We're terrible at walking on eggshells. That should be evident. God have mercy. So yeah, post-production Nate, if you do not fix that, say goodbye to your livelihood. Jesus Christ.
And mine.
And Nick's. Yeah, so oh boy. So this is a Mr. Ballin video about a teenager who gets terrorized by a creature in a forest while he is trapped at a cabin in the woods. So I've been in an old log cabin before. I stayed in one with my family not too long. It was about when I was like 10 years old. It was, I think, about 3 days. There were 6 of us in there, and it was a very comfortable sleep because it was a very well-built cabin. It had an awesome fireplace, multiple rooms that just like everyone could sleep in, and not only that, but we also had enough guns there to keep us, like, just in case Bigfoot came rolling through. We could hopefully scare him off.
I've only ever been in a new log cabin, and it's my aunt and uncles that they built. It was awesome, and then for some reason they moved out of it, and I'm like, why?
Don't know. There's actually a Swedish guy. Yeah, here we are. This dude here, Erik Grunkvist. For 3 years, he was in the woods and he built himself a full-on log cabin. And, yeah.
I think I've seen this video.
Yeah, this guy is amazing. Just out here with old traditional tools, just making a log cabin. Like, look at this shit, dude. Look at that. Look at the boy. Oh yeah, he also hunted and like trapped
some leather.
Yeah, trapped him some animals. It's unbelievable everything that he was able to do within 3 years.
He's just being like, old school skills.
He's a man, a manly man. That's basically what I see here. And of course,
it's crazy to me that you can actually make stuff that accurately with a hatchet, though. Like, it's legitimate some skills, like, for sure.
Yes. And this is the final thing. He actually invited his family up to see it and everything. Dude, he like prepared a feast and everything for him. And yeah, that's it right there.
Oh, I get there and he'd be like, "Oh, I build all this by hand," and I'll be like, "No."
See, I feel like if I was a woman, right, would you not want to have his kids? Because I mean, if anything ever goes wrong, he could literally rebuild civilization out of nothing.
Yeah, look at that right there. That's gorgeous. That is a beautiful, beautiful house. And honestly, I think most women would see that and just be like, "This is a man.
Right?
This is a man. I want to make babies with him." Yes, I could see that.
Just be like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I wish I had skills like that. I mean, maybe.
Not every woman wants to get knocked up, even if the guy.
No, I know that. I know that, but
that's what I'm thinking.
But there is such a thing as biology, and there's some women out there who just can't help themselves. Much like some women are just like they're just like this man is everything I've ever dreamed of. I want him, and they'll like fly to Sweden in the middle of nowhere and just be like, I want to make babies with you. Oh, hold on.
Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. I'm just like, hey, do you want to come back to my cabin in the woods and make babies?
Oh gosh, this is what I imagine it's like.
Mr. Catcher, put the mess on hold. I want his babies.
Yeah, it's just such a great old clip. I miss old Soviet Womble clips like that. Ah well. Anyway though.
Oh, I forgot what we were doing.
Yeah, we're gonna be reliving a terrifying.
We went so far off topic, we almost forgot what the topic was.
I didn't. I wanted to lull y'all
It's
into I wanted to lull y'all into a false sense of security.
Oh, I had no sense of security.
And now
we figured out that's what the creature in the woods is. It's the women that snuck out there to have mixed babies.
There you go.
I had no sense of security because I was sitting there just thinking about the poor women that were being lured in by the peacocking display of ridiculous manliness. It was like,
what, like a gym bro at friggin' Plant? Oh wait, I'm sorry, not at Plant Fitness, but like Gold's Gym.
Not really.
Just like all of a sudden, he's just like, hey ladies, you like what you see here?
That's more of the alpha, the toxic masculinity type stuff that they're talking about all the time nowadays. Yeah.
Whereas the dude literally built a bitchin' ass cabin in the woods, complete with a root cellar, with hand tools, alone for 3 years with his dog. Dude, that is awesome on so many levels. I wish I could do that. My family used to have a lot of property way back in the backwoods of Wise County. And I wish I could do some shit like that. But, unfortunately, they sold a whole heap and ton of it to a logging company.
See, my species doesn't build things. We just let our hair down and kind of let it mat together to keep us warm. And we just kind of, eat mushrooms and stuff. And
okay.
Yeah.
See God.
Not those mushrooms.
No.
The new...
Well, as long as you're careful.
The nutritional
ones, not the
hallucinogenic.
I mean, those exist, but I'm sure they're nutritional too, just in a different way.
God,
spiritually nutritious.
I will tell you from experience, they taste like ass. They're not good.
Yeah.
And I thought I died and went to hell, so I don't recommend it.
Maybe Nick is the creature in the forest. He's just on a bad trip.
I just ate the wrong mushrooms, and I'm like, we're going to hell. Oh no!
You're like on the roof of the cabin. You think you're playing a show, and you think you're singing, but it just comes out as a garbled mess because you're.
I'm just outside next to a tree, and I'm just like, what? And they're like, what was that horrible shriek outside?
Oh, God. I guess we're going to see how this plays out. Let's go ahead and hop in. Here we go.
There's a good reason why so many movies that are designed to be scary are set in the woods. Really, the woods at night. And if you go even further, most of them are like a cabin in the woods at night, right? It's because being in the woods at night, as human beings, checks a lot of fear boxes. You have the isolation factor. You're far away from society. That scares us. We don't want to be isolated. You feel more vulnerable that way. You know, it checks the darkness fear factor. As humans, we're mostly afraid of the dark. Because you don't know what's around you or what's looking at you.
Tree cover can eliminate moonlight.
Yes. Yeah. As it's been stated before, I think what we talked about in the last one, it's you don't know dark until you are middle of the woods
Lost
dark.
in the dark, yeah.
Like middle of the woods, new moon kind of dark.
Yep.
Like that is terrifying.
City lights beaming in, you're kind of probably removed from lots of light pollution, so you're kind of like in total darkness. And I think the third fear check in the box would be the fact that it's easy to hide in the forest. You don't know what's watching you because there's trees everywhere. You have animals, predators potentially.
I was gonna say, the
or even
nature part of
predatory
it's one of the
humans that
things
could
for
be
me.
hiding at every turn. Hollywood has picked up on that and made bunches of movies of, you know, the whole cabin in the woods trope where somebody's isolated and scared in the woods because it works. It's something that we are afraid of. And so today's story starts off a lot like all the other kind of cliche cabin in the woods scary stories, but this one, it's different. This one scared the heck out of me because as I read the account of what happened in this cabin in the woods, I imagined myself being in this guy's position and thinking about the psychological trauma that this would have on you. And I've actually had a literal cabin in the woods scary experience, and you can check it out. It's one of my top videos on my YouTube channel. It's What I Saw in My Room Still Haunts Me. You can check it out. It's my own cabin in the woods story. But having been through something
You
like
gotta check that out at some point.
I was able to put myself in this guy's position, and this story terrifies me. So as you're listening to today's story, try to put yourself in this guy's position and think to yourself, what would you have done? But before we get into today's story,
He's
if
never
this
really
type of
introed a
content
video
appeals
like this, so this must be pretty dang spooky.
to you, the kind of
You saying it
strange,
scared
dark,
him.
and mysterious that I'm going to deliver to you in a story format, if that's kind of your thing, I would ask you to please gently obliterate the like button and then subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any of these strange, dark, and mysterious uploads that I do every week. All right, let's get into today's story. In 2010, a 17-year-old boy is devastated to find out that his father had suddenly passed away. And it really sent shockwaves through the whole family. Not only because now they're grieving the loss of their father, their husband, but because so much of their daily lives they spent together. I mean, this was a very close family, and one of the things that they liked to do as a family was they owned a cabin. It was around Mount Bachelor in Oregon, this beautiful mountain where you can go snowboarding and skiing. They had this family cabin up there where in the wintertime, this family would spend a lot of time there. They would go up there as a family, spend time there as a family. It was this wonderful retreat. And as they're trying to settle the estate of their husband, their father, they're trying to figure out what they want to do with this cabin, because all of a sudden this place that, you know, used to bring them so much joy and was a place of very fond memories suddenly felt kind of hollow. You know, it just would never be the same. And so they decided that they were actually going to sell this cabin. And the 17-year-old boy was just really upset about this. You know, he was very close with his father. He had some very fond memories of going hunting and skiing and snowboarding with his dad at this cabin. And so once the cabin was actually put up for sale by this boy's mother, he asked if, you know, before they actually sell it, could he spend some time up there, I guess paying his respects in a way to his father. But he just wanted one more opportunity to spend some time in that cabin. And his mom said, go for it, you know, take as many days as you want, go up and hang out in the cabin. But when you come back, we are going to sell the place. So his father had actually willed to his son his vehicle. And so the 17-year-old boy loads up his father's car. He goes out and he buys some snacks and drinks, heads up to the cabin in Oregon with the family dog whose name was Midnight. And his plan was just to go up to this cabin and basically try to enjoy being in this space one last time. Don't think about it as this place that now has no meaning because his father had died, but rather a place that he wanted one last positive memory before it was forever gone from their family. And so he gets up there, makes his way to the cabin, and he settles in for what turned out to be an abbreviated stay at the cabin. So in order to understand this story, we need to talk a little bit about the layout of the cabin itself. The cabin was 2 stories, and it was built into a mountain, Mount Bachelor in Oregon. And so the back half of the cabin was kind of settled into the mountain. So there were no windows, save a little sliver of window that fed into the bathroom, actually, in the back of the cabin. The front of the cabin was this beautiful, you know, double-decker cabin with windows on the second floor that fed into the master bedroom. On the second floor there was a walk-out balcony that kind of jutted out a few feet from the second deck. The first floor you could see in through all these beautiful windows. There was a sitting area, like a living room and a TV, and then a small kitchen as well. So the cabin was built in an area
Sounds like
that
a pretty
was
balling
heavily
cabin,
forested.
man.
So they had to clear out, a bunch of trees to even build this cabin when the family had this built years and years ago. And so they really only cleared away the front section of trees so that there was a clear shot to the house, but the sides and the back were very heavily forested with these huge tall pine trees. And they basically had this little tiny driveway that fed in through all the trees, and you had this one kind of clearing in front of the cabin. So if you were on the second floor of the cabin, where there's the master bedroom, there's a bed up there, and you were looking out that window, you'd be looking over the balcony out into a clearing, basically. But there's a tree line, 100 yards past that clearing that's very dense. And there's actually a couple of trees, fairly prominent trees, that are sitting in front of the cabin that they did not cut down. One of which, for the story, we'll call it the sitting tree. Parallel to the ground, about 20 feet up, was this beautiful branch that looked perfect for a whole bunch of people sitting on it. But it was 20 feet above the ground, and there wasn't really any way to climb up to it, and no one was trying to climb this tree. But there's this tree that basically has a seat, if you will, like the branch is like a seat that is looking directly into the cabin. And that's going to matter later in the story. So clearing in front of the cabin with this one kind of sitting
Gonna
tree,
see a
and then
creature
very
sitting on
dense
the
forest,
sitting tree?
360 degrees beyond, that one clearing. So when the 17-year-old gets to the cabin, he goes inside, he puts his drinks in the fridge, puts his snacks on the counter, he hooks up his PlayStation to the TV, and he's just like having a great time. His dog Midnight is roaming around, enjoying being at the cabin, and he's having a great time. And over the course of the first 2 days that he was there, it was everything he hoped it would be. It was like he was bonding with his father one last time. It was a peaceful time that he was there. He was happy to be there, and he was just enjoying himself, eating snacks and playing video games for a couple of days. He actually left a couple times to go snowboarding too. But on the third day that he was there, things started to get pretty weird. So on the third day when he got up, it had snowed dramatically the night before. A couple of feet of snow on the ground, it's still snowing pretty heavily. And he's like, I just don't feel like brushing off my car and trying to go to the store or go to the slopes to go snowboarding. I'm just gonna basically be shut in for the day. And he was excited about it. He's like, great, me and my dog Midnight can bomb around the inside and play some more video games and eat some more snacks and do whatever. Midday that day, Midnight needed to pee, so he went outside with Midnight and let Midnight run around and go to the bathroom. And while he's out there with his dog, he notices there are some footprints in the snow that looked relatively fresh. And this is the first time that he's left his cabin that day, so they aren't his. And his neighbors were pretty far away, and he figured that they were older, that they were probably not going to be trekking around the woods. So he's thinking to himself, I wonder who made these footprints. And he's looking at them, and they started in the woods. So the woods are not that far away from where he is. He's in a relatively small clearing just in front of his cabin. But he can tell these fresh footprints have come out of the woods. And they're basically right in front of this clearing. And he notices that they bank around and go to the back of his cabin and kind of go up onto the mountain. And he kind of just starts walking and following the footprints a bit, and they kind of disappear up onto the mountain behind his cabin. And he's not overly concerned or anything, but he definitely takes note that more than likely somebody was walking around his cabin. Maybe it was someone who got lost, maybe it was a neighbor. I mean, he's rationalizing it, he's thinking, you know what? It can't have been anything too serious. Obviously, they didn't knock on my door. They didn't need anything. And so he kind of writes it off. So that night, he stays up late playing video games, and his dog is sleeping next to his chair. And at some point, he's tired and he wants to go to bed. So he draws all the curtains, so blackout curtains around the downstairs, shuts all the blinds, and locks all the windows, all the doors, and heads upstairs to the lofted second floor where the master bedroom is. He, gets in bed, turns off all the lights, everything's locked, everything's shut, the dog climbs into bed, and the dog would sleep up near his head. And suddenly the dog jumps up, still on the bed, and looks at the stairs leading downstairs to the front door. And its ears are perked up, like it's heard something. And it wasn't unusual for the dog to be a little jumpy, maybe it heard something. He wasn't overtly concerned. But when Midnight, the dog, jumps off the bed and sprints downstairs after having this sudden alertness, and he's listening, now he is a little bit worried. He's thinking, well, I saw footsteps yesterday walking around my cabin, and now it's the middle of the night and my dog is downstairs acting like it's heard something, and he hears the dog, Midnight, pacing around the downstairs, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Every indication is the dog wants to go outside. That's the noises that he's picking up, that signal from the dog. And so finally, even though he's feeling a little bit unnerved by this, he decides to go down and see what Midnight wants. And so Midnight is by the door, ears perked up, very eager to go outside. It's pacing, you know, and he thinks, you know what, she just needs to go to the bathroom. And so he opens the door with Midnight and he goes outside and he expects his dog to pee. But Midnight doesn't need to pee. Midnight starts kind of stalking around the corner and looking out across the clearing towards the sitting tree in that direction, and it just stops. And it's looking at something very intently, as if it spotted an animal or something in the woods. And so the boy is looking at the dog, and he's kind of trying to encourage the dog to do its business so they can go back in the cabin. And he's starting to feel really uncomfortable. He's looking around. He's thinking like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm a little bit concerned now. And he's sensing that Midnight is going at some point to try to take off after whatever she sees in the woods. And so preemptively, he grabs Midnight and says, all right, drags Midnight back in the house and shuts the door and locks it and takes one last look out the window of the door and just kind of looks out. I mean, it's dark, he doesn't have a light or anything. And he's like, man, that's creepy. Locks it, shuts the blinds, confirms everything downstairs is locked, you know, does a sanity check to make sure everything is locked. And he goes back upstairs with Midnight. Midnight did not want to go back upstairs. He had to practically drag her back upstairs. And then when they did get back in bed, Midnight refused to get in bed, but instead stood next to the bed looking at the stairs, wanting to go downstairs, periodically looking back at him, and then down at the stairs. Midnight wanted to go back outside. So he's laying there in bed, and he's taking full stock of the fact that his dog is very much on edge. But he's trying to fall back asleep, trying to convince himself that nothing weird is going on. And after about 30 minutes of that and being unsuccessful at falling asleep, as he's laying there, it's silent, and all of a sudden he hears footsteps on his roof. Now, the roof is right above his head. I mean, he's on the second floor. There is no attic. The roof is right there. And he hears about 6 footsteps. And he actually described it as something with hooves. And his dog instantly looks up as well, and they're both watching the ceiling as what sounds like hooves walking along the roof of this cabin. And it was so distinctive that immediately what he's thinking to himself is, how could a deer or a moose or something get on the roof of the house? There is no way, unless you like leapt from a tree or had a ladder, for you to get on the roof. And how did we not hear, if they leapt from a tree or a ladder even, how didn't we hear a loud slamming sound when they first landed on the roof? Like, it's as if they've been there for a while and we just didn't know. And so then the footsteps stop, and at this point the dog stops looking at the roof and goes right to the balcony, which is shut. There's a door shut to the balcony, and there's curtains drawn against the balcony, so he can't see what's out there. And so the 17-year-old boy is sitting in his bed, and he's like, oh, I don't want to see what's on the porch. And he even says in his write-up about this that he's like, you know, I'm a pretty tough guy, but I'm in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, totally isolated. Like, I almost don't want to know what's going on outside. I just want to pretend it's not happening. But at some point,
it's understandable.
He musters the courage to go out on the balcony. And so he walks over very timidly to the door, and Midnight's there ready to go outside. And he takes a deep breath and he slides open the blackout curtains. But there's no light outside and there's no light inside, so it's just kind of darkness. And he can barely make out even just the snow that's on the balcony right in front of him. And he takes a deep breath and he unlocks the door and he opens it up. And the first thing he does is he turns and he looks up at the roof to see if there's a deer or a moose or something on the roof. There's nothing up there, and he's kind of peering around, and he can't even see footprints up there. So in a way, he's kind of relieved, right? Like, I must have been imagining that. He had a flashlight, and so at this point, he's looking back at his roof of his cabin, and he shines the light real quick, and it's totally dark out, right? So this light goes very far, and he sees nothing. And the dog at this point, he can hear the dog making kind of some commotion below him. It's angling itself to look out in the direction of the sitting tree and out towards that tree line where the dog had originally been fixated on something in the tree line. And so just doing his diligence, the 17-year-old scans from the top of the roof where he sees nothing. He starts scanning over to the side of the house, right? Like, this is the direction of the sitting tree. He's looking over here, and he's scanning the tree line, just looking for anything that might have been on the roof. And he's looking, and he's looking, and he's looking, and then he gets to the sitting tree. And his flashlight stops on a man crouched on that perch 20 feet off the ground on the sitting tree, who looked very tall. He had his hands holding onto the branch right above him, and his mouth is open. And he's holding onto the branch, and he's looking directly at the boy. Unblinking, 100% focused on him. He's less than 50 yards away from him at this point. And it took him a second, the 17-year-old, to register what his flashlight was pointed at. And he panics and he drops it. And the dog reacts to the drop flashlight too. And because he's alone out here, he needs to protect himself, so he scoops that light back up and he shines it one more time to see, like, holy cow, like, what did I just see? And the guy on the branch is now gone. And he scans the ground. There's nothing. And he's terrified at this point, so he grabs his dog, throws Midnight back into the cabin, runs back in, shuts the door, locks it, closes the blinds, turns off his light, and literally gets back in bed with his dog, and he's now basically cowering on the bed. So at this point, they're sitting on the bed. Midnight is no longer acting like she wants to go outside. I think she's picking up potentially on the paranoia. Okay. At this point, the boy and his dog are sitting on the bed, and they're both scared at this point. Midnight, was fearsome while she was outside, but now that she's back inside, she doesn't want to go near the door either. She's rubbing up against him. She doesn't want to go anywhere. And they're sitting there, and the boy, all he's thinking to himself is, did I really just see that? It looked like an unnaturally tall man. How did he get in the tree? That's 20 feet off the ground. There's no way to get up into the tree. And why was it sitting there with its mouth open, staring at me? And who was on the roof? Was anything on the roof? And if this thing can get 20 feet up into a tree, it certainly can get on the roof of my cabin, I would imagine. But what was it? So he's having this type of thought process, and he's realizing too that it's not that late in the night. He still has hours until the sun's gonna come up. And as he's basically panicking and feeding off his own paranoia, and it's getting worse and worse by the second, he hears tapping on the door, on the front door of his cabin.
Hell no.
And his heart sinks. And he and his dog kind of look in the direction of the tapping, and he knows he's not gonna go open the door. He knows the door is locked. He knows everything is locked. He's panicking that maybe it wasn't, but he knows he locked it. And the tapping just sounds like a finger tapping on the window. And at some point the tapping stops, and he thinks, okay, maybe they'll just go away. And then he hears what sounds like footsteps outside, and then tapping begins on the side of his cabin. Not the front door anymore, like the wall of the cabin. Now it's a little bit louder. The tapping continues up the side of the house, and then it stops. And he's sitting there and he's thinking, whatever this is walking around my cabin. And then he hears tapping on the little slit that is the window that feeds into the bathroom that's right behind the bedroom that he's in right now. So 6 feet away, maybe 10 feet away, whatever this thing is, it's now literally just a small pane of glass away, tapping on the glass. And so now he's petrified. And he's just hoping that this thing goes away. It doesn't. It goes to the other side of the cabin and starts tapping on the wall on the other side of the cabin, and makes it all the way back to the front, where it begins tapping on the glass of the front window, back to the door. And he's just thinking, like, whatever this is walking around my cabin, tapping all over my cabin. And then all the tapping stops. And his heart's racing. It's the middle of the night. He's in the middle of the woods somewhere. He's totally isolated. And then it's like his worst nightmare comes true. He hears footsteps on his balcony, and then tapping right on the big sliding glass doors of the door leading out to the balcony.
That's a creepy ass picture.
Behind a blackout curtain and a pane of glass is this tall man, more than likely, who's right on his balcony. And the tapping on the balcony goes on and on and on, and then all of a sudden it stops. And he's just waiting for it to open the door and come inside. But it doesn't. Instead, it goes on the roof, and it starts tapping on the roof directly above him. And the tapping continues all night. And so finally, the sun comes up. He hasn't slept all night, and he finally gets the courage to go over to the balcony and open up the curtains and see what's out there. And when he does, there is nothing out there, but there's footprints, as if someone had been pacing on the balcony all night. He opens it up, and he finally just jumps out and looks up on his roof. There's nothing on his roof. He can see all these footprints on his roof. He looks down, and it's like a racetrack of footprints all around his house. Someone had been basically stalking his house all night, and then the footsteps retreat all the way to the sitting tree and then go back into the woods. He packed up his stuff, he left, and he couldn't have been happier that the family sold that cabin because he was never going to go back. So to this day, he has no idea what it was. And even if it was just a person who was tapping on your windows and your walls and your roof and your balcony, even if it was just a human being doing that, that would be horrifying. Let
Yes.
alone if it was something else, something paranormal. And so if you want to check out my video about my experience, it's on my channel called What I Saw in My Room Still Haunts Me. It's eerily similar to the one that I just described of the 17-year-old in Oregon. And so I'd love to hear in the comments what you think was doing all that tapping, and if it's possible that was just some person screwing with this poor kid, or maybe it was something else. So let me know in the comments, and I'll try to get back to as many people as I possibly can. If you haven't already, please, if you like this story, gently obliterate the like button and subscribe and turn on all post notifications so you can get 3 to 4 videos just like this every week. If you want to get in touch with me, you can hit me up on Instagram. My handle is johnballin416. I'm also quite active on TikTok. My handle is Mr. Ballin over there, and I go live on there all the time, 10 o'clock Eastern most days of the week. So I hope to see you in one of those other places, and I hope you'll continue to watch my videos here on YouTube. And that's going to do it, guys. Thank you very much. Till next time.
So yeah, apparently this kid was sought after by a Wendigo. The look of it, where it's located and everything. A Wendigo is very prominent in like Oregon, Washington State. Like a lot of the tribes up in those areas talk about Wendigo and what they look like, and the look of it, you know, very tall, very lean, almost like just like so eerily white as well.
Did he say that it was pale?
I think he did.
I only heard him say it was an unnaturally tall man.
I think it was a juvenile Sam Squatch.
Ah, a hairless one?
We didn't say if it was hairy or not.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Because he just said a man, but they didn't say if it was clothed or not.
I don't know.
And he didn't. I don't remember if he said it was pale or dark. But the stories say that young and juvenile Sasquatches will climb trees.
Oh yeah, of course they will. I mean, they're Sasquatch. They're given how much how much strength that they have. I mean, they could probably like climb up anything, like especially in the forest.
Or is Doug Jones in a gorilla costume?
Ooh, yeah, Doug Jones in a gorilla costume. I'd believe that.
Yeah, actually, Wendigo, it sounds like, are more east than Oregon. East Coast forests of Canada, Great Plains region of the United States, and the Great Lakes region of the United States and Canada.
I'm not going to lie, though. I mean, if I'm the only person out in a remote cabin, I'm going to be strapped.
Yeah. See what? I forget the. Oh, I know you're always like. Anytime you almost go anywhere, you're always like armed with something.
I mean, like, if you're going to be in a situation like that, I mean, there's still stuff out there, just animals that, you know. And honestly, I'm not going to let my dog out after dark, too. Especially not on a lead where they're going to run off and, like, get scooped up by a mountain lion.
Yeah, that would not be good.
So. That's where these stories kind of lose me. Because we also did the one with, like, the girl where she would, like, hike to her lake spot.
And in spite of all the evidence,
And then she found, like, the
on.
decapitated beaver head strung up and or whatever. And it's like... And then this one, like, it's creepy, but the fact that he was like, I'm going to let my dog out in the middle of the night, but not on a lead because he has to go to the bathroom in really secluded backcountry. Like, I don't really buy that. That kind of takes me out of it.
Yeah, I could see that.
So it looks like for Oregon, in terms of the cryptids list, Mike is right.
Samskatch, man. They're all over dang place.
Sasquatch.
There's a cop that saw one in Piney Flats a while back, apparently.
Really?
Yep.
Apparently,
Buddy
Oregon
knows.
also has black-eyed children sightings, so I'm never going to Oregon.
Yeah.
The black-eyed children?
That's like the most terrifying thing to me.
Yeah, imagine walking out in the woods and seeing one of these. Just like,
Well, the thing about it is, it doesn't have to be in the woods. They literally show up at your door and try to get you to let them in.
just all of a sudden he's here.
Because everybody feels bad for a scared lost child.
Like, they'll come to your front door and be like, "Can I use your phone?" or something like that, and or your car door, and people say that they notice their hands moving towards actually like opening their windows or doors and stuff without meaning to, and shit like that. Like, they eerily, supernaturally compel you to like let them in, and there's no stories of anyone actually ever letting them in. Therefore, it's assumed that if you fall for it and let them in, that you won't be there to tell a story. Like,
Fair enough.
it's terrifying to me.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie about that. That is actually pretty damn terrifying.
Yeah, that creeped me out. I do. Watched a bunch of videos one night when we were at Andrew's house, and he lives in Blumpville in the middle of the woods. And I had to walk out to my car in the dark afterwards, and I was like, I wish we hadn't watched all those before I left in the middle of the night to go home.
Oh well, hey, could be worse.
Look, man, I'm not afraid to karate chop the demon out of a kid.
It's like, come on now, I'm gonna remove your head from your body with a karate chop or a Judy chop. Like, see what you got here is you got your ninja chops, you got your karate chops, and then right in the middle you got your Judy chops.
I'm more on the table of just shit kicking the fucking right in the face. Yeah.
Now don't be karate kicking while you Now don't be Judy chopping while you ninja kicking. Ain't no use for a one-legged ninja. God. Yeah, I would probably do like the big boot to the face. Just
I'd give him the old holy cross chop.
pow. In nomine Padre et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. God. So yeah, this was pretty terrifying. Although some facts are just like maybe not. I don't know.
I don't see people making the choices they make in this. I mean, I like these, but of the ones I've heard, I don't see people making those choices in these situations.
That's fair. And that's very fair. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of these videos I'm just like, there's like, maybe, but there's stuff that just doesn't add up 100%. But all right. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it for this one, everybody. This was Teen Terrorized by a Creature in the Forest by Mr. Ballin. If y'all want to see more from Mr. Ballin, be sure to leave a like on this video, but also click his name in the title of the video. And yeah, I guess until next time, I'm Nate.
I am Nick.
Micah.
See you later, everybody. Peace.